There we go. Recording in progress. And pull up the brief. And we'll just, so what I was going to do to start off with, because I've kind of formalized the brief, is just talk through it in a kind of an art director's type meeting. And then we'll have a little bit of a discussion. I've got some images there as well, which illustrate some of the points about some of the trends in design that the Wiriku Village people are, open to. So here goes the screen share, and hopefully the recording will continue during screen share. Sometimes it doesn't, and all you end up with is a gray silence. So let's hope that there is a bit more than a gray silence. So the new style brief, we've got the blurb that hasn't really changed, except I've edited it. So I've got rid of most of the typos that were in my initial somewhat rushed bit of text, but it describes all of the things that we've got in the shopping center, and it's got keywords that you can find in briefs like amenity, plenty of parking, thriving, premium, all of those sorts of things. So that's obviously how they see themselves. That's sort of buzzing. That's sort of the sort of keywords that we would pull out of there. Fresh food, fitness, restaurants, and cafes, health and beauty. Gives us an idea of the sort of spread of shops that are there. It's interesting as well, which something that I would take note of is that they've made quite a point of describing disabled restrooms, and that there is a play area, and there are parenting facilities that are 5-star rating. So obviously they have identified that their customer base is concerned about things like that. Change tables, nappy bins, wash basins, play area for the kids, microwave and private feeding rooms. So that sounds pretty good, actually. I remember the first time I went into the Bendigo marketplace with a child that needed his nappy changed, and there was a bit of Laminex next to a sink, and that was about it. And with an overflowing nappy. There's public transport. There's a lot of emphasis on bicycles. And when you read the developer's story, they're a national company that's come from Western Australia. It's been around for a while and has big projects all over the country. So pretty big. So the project, as we discussed last week, Wiriku Village is being rebranded. It opened 2 years ago, it's failed to attract customers and tenants, and therefore hasn't met its KPIs. So do you know what KPIs are? Anybody want to throw up an explanation of a KPI?
KPIs are key point indicators, and so they're different targets that one needs to meet in order to show investors and different things that they're achieving the goals that they have set out. So on a smaller scale, when I worked at EB Games, KPIs included things like selling pre-owned, having traded in games, selling new, making sure you had multiple items per sale, or the average transaction amount per sale, and then that you kind of tally all those up at the end of the day and then send that off to head office, and so they can understand how the store is tracking, how the region is tracking, and then how the country is tracking as they combine all the information together. Yeah. Hopefully that helps.
No, that's excellent description. I hate it when people talk about KPIs actually in a business sense, and it's like I obviously I had KPIs when I was running my own company, but I didn't make a big deal out of them. I sort of used terminology like um, I don't know, revenue targets and things like that, and deadlines and meeting deadlines, and we had a list of things that I thought were really important in running the business, such as that we delivered our product on time and fit for purpose. So yes, they were KPIs, but they weren't. I don't like the jargon that surrounds them these days. It's a bit like many of the other things that we have in our society that are really tokenistic. Everywhere you go these days, particularly anything to do with government or local government, someone says, "Oh, I'm going to do the welcome to country," and they're not Aboriginal. They don't have any connection to the country other than the fact they bought a block, and they just drone out this thing, blah, 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 blah. And you think, what's the point of that? Why have you done that? I find it insulting to the indigenous people that some white 55-year-old has just intoned this thing, and everybody, you can see everybody's eyes rolling at, oh God, why are we doing this? It's just makes them feel good, I suppose. But that kind of thing does make people does make them feel good, but it doesn't actually help anyone. I would be more impressed if they said, "Oh, we've got a positive hiring policy towards local Aboriginal youths, and we're going to put in a training program for them," rather than just drone on about elders past, present, and emerging. It's just a nonsense. Anyway, we've got to make sure we're not tokenistic in the way that we help with the branding of Werrikee Village. So we've been partnered by them. In other words, we've been hired by them to be their partner as they go through their rebranding process. So they're creating an image. They're looking at their community. They're identifying what is going to resonate with their community. And we're here to produce all of the communications product to help them out. Initially, we're creating a logo, a color palette, typography. So we're looking at the fonts we're going to use, some iconography, other visual components to help with the rebranding. And we're also going to create a set of brand guidelines, and we'll go through the process. I have a corporate style guide that we'll look at when we come to that part of it, which will show the sorts of information that you need to put with it. And it's actually something that you do quite a bit of in a design studio, where not usually alone, but you'd be looking at a set range of criteria, and then you would recommend, okay, if we're going to have the logo, it needs to have X amount of space around it. The logo can't be pulled apart. You can't use this bit alone. If you're going to use an abbreviated version, it has to be this part of it, and so forth. Because all of the, otherwise you end up with people just pulling apart your designs, and they lose their integrity. So a brand style guide, important for us to create. So we'll go through that exercise. So branding, the Werrikee Acacia William Soni, or Sony, I don't know how to pronounce that, is a shrub-like plant with masses of yellow flowers blooming in late winter to spring on a small plant reaching about 2 meters in height. It's found growing all through the goldfields. So the Werrikee is everywhere. It's an icon of our part of the world. The village is constructed with a modern mix of timber, glass, steel, and slate. The centre is spacious, lit with natural light and high-tech strips of LEDs. So it's a modern, high-tech, architect design type place. And that's the kind of visual element that we have. There are other things associated with the branding that they haven't included in the brief that we can take as read, but as we see with the facilities, they're really catering to the young parent aspect of their demographic. They are interested in contributing to things that events, movements, concerns in the local area. They may sponsor primary school age sports. They may put on community barbecues. They may have things like sponsoring pieces of road and areas where they'll get volunteers to come and plant trees and do all that kind of thing. So they want to be right into the community, not just the shopping centre in its isolated sense. They want Wiriku Village to be a kind of the centre of the local community, of the sort of 4 or 5 suburbs that surrounds them, where most of their customers come from. So then we have the colours: Wiriku flowers and foliage, timber, glass, steel, and slate. Other colours resonating with the target market include, and these are colours that they have gone out and tested with the demographics. So they will go and do a sample through the population and get people to choose the colours that they like best. So we've got a bright yellow, the Wiriku, an ultimate grey, which is a kind of a mid grey, slightly dark grey. We've got champagne, which is that sort of very pale straw coloured pink, a deep teal, a burnt red orange, pastel greens, mint, raspberry, and peach. So it gives us quite a broad palette. There's with those sorts of colours, we're not going to run out of a palette. The tone: disharmonious colour combinations, nature-inspired design, sophisticated adult cartoon illustrations, mono and duo tone designs, simple geometric designs. So they've got a broader range of likes and dislikes to the tone that we have normally had, which has all been about tone on tone. This is a new generation thing. It's when we look at some examples of them, what is a disharmonious color combination and why would you use it? Obviously, red and green sitting side by side, if they're fully saturated, bright hues, still doesn't work. It still is going to be, whoa. But there are color combinations that you would not normally consider when you have a look at a color wheel. And if you use the Adobe color wheel or color, what's it called, that Adobe website? I actually used it on the weekend to choose a palette of colors for a graphic I'm doing. And
the color guide.
Yeah, that's the thing. The one I mean, that website that we looked at. And I just went into it, and I had 2 colors that are corporate colors. I plugged them into it, and then I asked it to give me 5 in total for a palette. And with a bit of tweaking, I ended up with a nice range. The only text we've got so far is the name of the place, Wiriku Village. Images to be supplied. And then we get to the audience. So the audience description has been expanded to give us a lot more information about the kind of people. So we started off understanding that they are they've got a slightly higher income than the average household, but they're not rich. They're not yet reached the level of the ultra affluent. So they're young double income families. Most are trades transitioning to becoming small business owners and well-educated professionals buying their first homes. And importantly, they don't leave their business smarts at work when they go home at night. They're careful money managers who evaluate various purchasing options The experts are making trade-offs to achieve the optimum return on their investment. So when they go out and they buy something expensive, they see that as an investment. In the same way that the tradies, when they go down to Bunnings to stock up the back of the ute, they won't buy the cheapest material that's there, because they know that that is not good value for money, even though it would, the initial outlay is low. They will look for a piece of equipment that is going to give them a decent return and something that they'll be able to use for a period of time. And the same with the more professionals. If they're going down to buy a big screen telly, then they won't go for the cheapest Chinese brand. They'll go for a brand that has a reputation for reliability. And that reminds me, I bought a new flat screen telly not so long ago, and I turned it on Saturday night, and the screen was so dark I could not see anything on it other than dull shapes, and I nearly wept at the thought that it was broken already. But turning it on and off a few times got it going again, but I'm not, and I did a Google search and I found that it is a known issue with that particular model, and it's associated with this echo thing where it measures the amount of light in the room, and that gets confused. So I turned that off, so it's not echo anymore. Anyway, the audience is aspirational. Those value money is environmentally aware and fascist conscious. And as consumers, Henry's purchased designer housewares salvage jeans, that, in other words, jeans with holes in them, and farm-to-table produce. They're really interested in knowing where their produce comes from. So they will buy Harcourt goat's cheese, not just any old goat cheese. They know if it comes from Harcourt, it's local, etc. And they'll buy local wine, and they'll buy bread that's been baked on the premises, and all of that kind of thing. They're not going to buy frozen prawns grown in a human feces-filled pond in China. They want ocean prawns from the Gulf of Carpentaria, which that'll cost them more, but they have this sort of sense that that it's better for them, that it's better for the environment, and so forth. They crave luxury in a brand new style, not elitist or exclusive luxury, but an expression of luxury relevant to the younger generation's eclectic and inclusive lifestyles. They want brands that are vibrant, individualistic, that reflect their core values. So they're seeking high quality goods and services and pay careful attention to superior materials and workshop. And they like to buy things that give them pride and ownership, so they're I don't know if you've seen the ad where you see this guy in talking big about something. I think it might be Toyota, and he opens a garage and there's nothing there, but it's warranty sitting on a stool. Or I think it's Toyota. And that's the kind of advertising, so they're saying to him, look how reliable our product is, that we're prepared to give you a 5-year warranty. It's a bit more expensive than the new South Korean 4-wheel drive that would do just as good a job, but you don't know anything about that vehicle and its quality of build. So let's go to the known brand and make sure that you can park it in your driveway and give it a polish and make it look good. So they're looking for products that give them pride of ownership for the items purchased and the pride of belonging to a cadre of innovative and in-the-know shoppers. They also looking for brands that communicate something more meaningful than just their net worth. And this is when you'll see people wearing T-shirts and clothing that has branding that's associated with their sort of value statements. They buy clothing, they buy material that indicates what tribe they belong to. And I don't mean it in a having a mohawk haircut and a machete and running around the countryside. They see themselves as maybe being part of the a kind of a water sports, outdoor active type group of people that cares for his children, doesn't do drugs, doesn't drink over, binge drink cheap sherry out of a flagon. They like to see themselves as part of a healthy, responsible group. And there's another little example. Think a Mini Cooper instead of a Mercedes. That's a bit of they see a Mini Cooper as a status symbol and more relevant to them than buying a Mercedes. You won't find a single Mercedes in their suburbs unless it's a van. I don't know what a Filson messenger bag is, but it's a brand that has a totally different connotation than Louis Vuitton, which is high-end luxury, and they are more likely to wear a smartwatch that might cost them $600 or $700 instead of a Rolex that might cost them much the same, maybe a bit more, but they would rather have the function and the modernity of the device. When given a choice between good, better, or best, of the best in any product or service category, they pick the middle ground. They want something above the standard issue, but not something super exclusive and high priced. They believe the best value by far can be found in the premium level, above the mass market price, but below the luxury level. So hopefully that can bring a picture in your mind of the kind of people that we're trying to talk to. So when we're designing anything for this group, we've got to think a little bit beyond just the casual thought. If we're making, say, for example, if we were designing a drink bottle, if Wiripi Village said, hey, we want to make some sports drink bottles as a giveaway for, I don't know, Sports Saturday or something, you would, in the conversation with them, you might say, yes, if we're going to do that, then we got to use an environmentally sound product. We can't just get the cheap plastic ones that taste disgusting. We've got to get something that's a bit edgy. Maybe you should get the steel ones that continue to be reused, or maybe you should get the glass ones that have got a rubber cage around them or something like that. So they can't be just El Cheapo plastic bottles, because our customers will never keep them. They won't use them. They won't take them. So it's just going to be a waste of money, and they'll end up in the bin, or people will just not accept them. In the same way that they're unlikely to take balloons, if you're handing out balloons or lollies, they would say, no, not for my kids. They don't eat sugar. So the competition, 2 competing shopping centres and the Bendigo CBD. However, Wiripi residents will often travel to large Melbourne shopping centres like Chaddy when shopping for major items. They're also comfortable shopping online. So will come Christmas time, they'll pile in the car and brave the madding crowds and drive down to Chadstone or go to Southland or whatever the name of the place is, because they're looking for the range of goods that they don't think they get at home. So we have to try and prevent that, or the shopping centre's got to try and prevent that. Their advantage is they're a local one-stop shop, modern, clean, easy parking, bypass, quality shops and goods. And it's also going to try and fit into their aspirations, so they are proud to go shopping there. It's like I often go to the Strathdale shopping centre. That's probably one of the nearest ones to me. And there's a cafe and kind of greengrocers there called Edwards, and people shop at Edwards, and they, everything, all the food looks really nice and whatever, but it's not much different to the stuff that's in Woolies or across the road in Aldi, but it comes in an Edwards bag. So they're prepared to pay a little bit more because, I always get my fruit and veggie from Edwards, because it's seen as a status symbol, because they ascribe a quality to the product. So Edwards is in a perfect place there. It's always jam-packed. And I mean, I've never bought anything in it except from a coffee. So I don't fit into its target market. But yeah, there are people who will do their whole week's shopping apart from cleaning products and things in Edwards. And I reckon it'd be probably 30 or 40% more expensive than going into Aldi in particular and buying the meat and veg there. So the scope of this project so far is to design a logo, a color palette, have a look at some fonts and some iconography, and develop a mood board logo and style guide. The potential Willoughby Village is going to produce a range of products that we are going to hopefully continue to produce for them, including some advertising, some other branding products. And the deadline for the first part of this, the logo and the color palette, etc., is Monday, 25 October. So in addition to that, I put up some illustrations to show you. That's what they see as being a modern adult type cartoon. So really they're quite realistic. They have a nice feel about them. But they're not like Hanna-Barbera and Bugs Bunny cartoons. You know, they are more realistic. So if they were to have a dog illustration, it would look like a dog and act like a dog. It wouldn't have anthropomorphic things. It wouldn't be a humanized dog. It wouldn't talk to you and whatever. It would just be a dog. Here's some disharmonious color combos, sort of pink and orange. So you would normally not put pink and orange together, but if you get the right hue and the right tint and tone, they can work. And if you do a little bit of research of disharmonious color combinations online, you'll see quite a lot of them. So you might find some combinations there that you would put together on your mood board and say, here's say 3 or 4 combinations that I think will work well based on the kind of colors that are being suggested in the earlier part of the brief. Geometric design. So all of these simple things like having geometric shapes, cross-hatching, using little dots for tones, and all of that kind of thing, as well as this almost abstract look that may work with a logo, may well work with any other kind of labeling or stuff that we have to do in the future. Because what we're trying to do at the moment is to create a look and feel that we're going to continue with in the other projects. So this is just the initial part of the process. And mono and duotones. And I don't know whether it's an unconscious thing because I read quite a lot of stuff about this as I'm developing classes for you, but as I'm doing a job at the moment for a long-standing client, for some, I'm stuck on using monotone imagery and those techniques I was showing the other day about creating a color and placing it over another one in Photoshop. I've spent ages doing that whole bunch of photos, and I had a Zoom call with the guy who asked me to do the job, and he's looking at it, he's going, well, he said, I really like that sort of palette you've got there. And I love these monotone images and things. And it was only then that I really realized that I had done it because it was a bit subconscious. So there we go. I'm on trend for Wiraki. And nature-inspired design. So that looks like kale to me. Don't know. Could it be kale?
It looks like it.
Yeah. I'm afraid I don't quite get kale. I couldn't eat it in a salad. And I think if I'm going to cook it, then I'd rather have spinach. But anyway. Apparently, it's a superfood. So when you see nature-inspired graphic design, it's the illustration, but it's also the colors. And if you have a look in the background at the paper, has a texture as well. So it is a recycled type paper. So you can mix and match that. You may well have something that is modern, hard-edged, high-tech, and then mix in with it some aspect of this sort of recycled nature type design. But certainly, you know, the Wirrikey is, and if you have a look at the flower in detail, it's quite an interesting thing, and its relationship with the flower, the way that it sits on that little stalk and things, that could make some interesting, almost cartoon-like illustrations to fit into the logo design. And that's the end of that. So that's where we are at the moment. We're really moving into the design area, but we've got a much closer idea of where we're going to go. And as I was reading through that material, ideas were just sort of flooding into my mind, and I was starting to see the logo and thinking about the kind of color palette I might use, and the sorts of typography and the way that the pages, if I was doing a page layout, what could I do and whatnot. So it was all starting to come together in my mind, as I hope it is with yours, but there is more information I need. I'm not sure about disharmonious color palettes. It's not something that I'm used to using, rather the reverse. I like contrasting colors, and I think a lot about the light and dark, so that everything is going to be accessible for people who might have low vision, etc. But disharmonious colors, I think that's a new direction, but it's definitely a trend in 2021. And I've seen it being used now quite a bit. So I think it's going to proceed, and the client has asked us to consider that. So that is our next step, a little bit more research, and then start to put together some font choices, 2 fonts at maybe 3 at the most. Thinking about the kind of way that you might lay out a block of text, and the leading and tracking. Is it going to be dense? Is it going to be open? Sorts of margins you might put around text. Is it going to have big fat margins, or are we going to go for narrower margins? All those sorts of things. If we're thinking of package design, are we going to have labels that fit on a piece of packaging, or are we going to involve the entire container? Are we going to use big splashes and flat panels of color with that kind of cartoon line work mixed in with it? Whatever it is that starts to come into your mind, and if you can start to pull all those things together and start building up a mood board with examples of the elements that you believe are going to fit this brief most closely, then that's really where you need to go. And if by the deadline, which was next Monday, you don't necessarily have to have a finished logo, but you might have a few ideas that you're starting to put together. You might be able to say, well, I really like the idea of this kind of drawing to express the Wirrikey, and then I'm interested in having these sort of humanoid shapes, maybe, that represent a family, and then I want to use some of these sort of harder edges and some geometric shapes as well. So I'm not expecting in a week, given the amount of other work that we've all got, to come up with a fully finished and polished logo. What I'm expecting is just that you are pulling your ideas together and that we'll be able to really, because we really need to polish this, because we're going to use it a lot. It's going to be in the magazine ads, the newspaper ads. It's going to be on branding products. It's going to be on a billboard. It's going to be on a vehicle. So this is really the crux of the design process, that we don't want to get sort of a month down the track and be looking at the artwork that we've been creating and going, it all looks really nice except for the logo. You don't want to feel like that. So you really got to think about it. Do a reverse version of the elements as you're doing them. What do they look like reversed out? How would they look on a transparent product? How would they look monochromatic? How would they look if they were in a full color version? It's quite a lot of different things. I made a logo just a little while ago, and as you know, I don't see myself as a really talented logo artist, but I thought I'd done a really nice job. And I had a color palette, and the client took one look at it and goes, I like that, but I want it in gold foil. And I'm like, I hadn't thought of gold foil. It's not going to work. It's just going to look tacky. Damn. So I thought, how can I? It just isn't going to suit, but that's what the client wants. So I'll try and talk them out of it. I had seen it as a flat color, and preferably reversed out of a darker background, because that's how I saw the rest of that particular job. But no, you wanted bloody gold foil. Jeez. Such is life. So are there any questions from all of us as we're sitting around the table here in the studio?
Do you want this in gold foil?
No, I don't want it in gold foil. Maybe, I don't know. You may see gold foil being the thing. I was just using that as an example of how you need to consider all of the different sorts of materials and way things might be done.
I have a few ideas put together after recording or whatever. I'd love to show you and kind of get any direction or anything that I could possibly think about more with what I currently have.
Sure. Love to see. Yes, Lauren, that's correct.
But no more questions here. I'm just happy to share and show whenever. I can do that now. I can do that later.
Yeah, if you don't mind doing it now, that'd be good.
Yeah. Oh, where are we going? Sorry, it's not letting me share my screen for some reason. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on.
All participants. I've got it set for all participants can share. Here we go. Oh, yes, that's a nice idea. Can't hear you, Jen, sorry.
Sorry, I like this idea of including the Wirrikee into the W, but then also kind of creating a V for like the Wirrikee village. But for a less botanic version, this kind of WV situation that just looks like an ornate W. I really liked the idea of this particular font. I was thinking about like higher end shopping centers that I've been to and what type of font they use and what kind of stylization they use with that. And when I found this particular one, it just like sung to me. It was like, this is the one, this is it. So I put this in color, and I'm in the process of going to reverse this out, and I think it will work really nicely reversed out as well. I did have this idea of this more calligraphy version, but I don't think that it's working the way that I wanted it to.
I tell you
yeah.
what, I like the W with the big the bottom left. I think that's got some nice ideas. How does that work with your leaf and flower idea?
I tried to do like a clipping. I tried to do like a pattern, like a leaf and like leaves and like dots for the flower into this larger panel. It didn't quite work the way that I wanted it to, but I did think about it. So I do really like this one, and I would love to incorporate some sort of botanical like essence in this, or whether it's me adding some like leaves to this like thinner strip here or something like that, treating that almost like a vine or a branch. That's another idea that I've been playing around with.
Or the a large version of the outline of the flower in the yellow behind it.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, I'm gonna continue sketching up some more ideas. This is like so different to what I originally started out with. I originally started with this kind of concept where it's kind of like a family with the Wirrikey flowers.
Yep.
But I just didn't feel like it hit hold on a second, sweetie, the target demographic. Okay. We can watch Frozen later.
Again.
okay, sweetie. But yeah, I just didn't feel the way that it was coming together once I digitized it. It wasn't feeling like it was hitting that right demographic. And I was like, if it was more middle class, then maybe, but because it's kind of that in between, it needed to be more elevated. And then I just had a bunch of these geometric shapes, which is where like this kind of came the W with the V. I did have something like this with the circles, but yeah.
When you're visualizing how this may be used, you could imagine that they have a large shopping bags with nothing on them but a great big logo. There may well be that a lot of the staff there wear a t-shirt and baseball cap type combo, like the trolley collecting people and other sort of support staff that are in the center, cleaners and all the rest of the kind of people who are otherwise unseen would also be part of the branding thing, because they'll be promoting the fact that there are people going around cleaning stuff all the time, and that, you know, all of the facilities are spotless and stuff. So
I think something that I would love to do is like keep the logo itself simple, but the branding, bring in those floral elements, like the geometric design that was shown on Edmodo, putting the floral elements into that. That's the type of stuff I thrive with. And like simple line art, as you know, doing the line art of the Wirrikey in with this pattern and these block shapes and pattern, and having that through like creating a pattern with that, and having that be on the shopping bags, have that be on clothing or whatever, would work really well with like the W reversed out onto it, or have it be a negative space of just that simple W. So it's very obvious that like it's Wirrikey and this is like the mood behind it and everything like that. Those patterns would be able to carry on to larger documents, onto an annual report, onto a billboard, having like the pattern with like an image and then the W and stuff like that. It's all coming together.
Well, this is part of the branding thing, you know, so that the end result, after they do all of the other things that they would be doing as part of a branding thing, where they'll be having you know, instead of selling stuff, they'll just be doing a bit like Bendigo TAFE has overdone, saying that people don't get bitten by spiders or whatever the thing is. You know, they rarely talk about individual courses. They just talk about the aspirational thing that we've got all these heroes and things. And
Yeah.
this is going to be the same with the Wirrikoo Village. You know, as they relaunch it into the community, there'd be television ads showing young couples just enjoying themselves at the supermarket and it being a center of their lives, and the kids at play and everything. But it's not going to be selling the weekly specials at Woolies. It's just going to create this perception in people's minds that it's a place they want to be and they want to be proud of. And you know, Wirrikoo Village sponsors poor you know, rescues bushfire burnt koala, you know, that kind of thing. It's a little bit cynical in a way, but what they will hope is that the people who live around it are going to be just identify the logo with more than it being a shopping center. It's going to become part of their lives, and that's this whole branding thing. It's a very strange world, branding. But
This is the color palette as well that I've kind of beautiful muted tones, this muted peach and yellow and whatnot, that gives that environmental country but like classy kind of vibe. I was thinking of adding maybe like a dusty pink in there, but I really love this champagne and how it works with kind of the warmth of everything else. And then these charcoal and slate colors as well, and imagining these colors together in those geometric shapes I think would look really beautiful.
Yeah, I think that palette works out really well. I'm just looking for something. And happened to discover a website dedicated to discordant color. She hasn't got any examples of it, but she just explains it. It's interesting what they see as being discordant colors in the house, in-house colors. I mean, my house is, I have a lot of walls that are painted different orange shades. So the basic color is the cream color. And then as you walk through the house, there are holes in the walls. So you walk in the front door and there's a cream wall, and then you look slightly to the left and there's a very deep dark orange, and then there's a paler orange, and then in the distance there's another one. And I didn't design it. There was when I built the house, I knew a guy who was an interior designer, and he was very unwell. He was dying actually, and he said, "I'd love to help with your house." And I didn't want to say, no, bugger off, I can do it myself. So I let him go. And I remember he had all the color cards and I'd sort of approved them. And I got a phone call from the painter where after he said, "I've just opened the first tin. Have you seen these colors?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Why? What is it?" And he goes, "Jesus, they're bright." And you know, that's 20 odd years ago, and they still it still looks quite modern, though it all needs to be repainted, which I hate doing. But anyway, but yeah, I think you're absolutely on the right track there, Jenna-Dean.
Yay!
Absolutely. Has anybody else been doing any work since we started the project last Monday?
I've got a couple of sketches of the logo.
Mm-hmm. You want to flash them up there, Dean?
Sure thing. Let me just get it up real quick.
Okay, so it's just Wirrikee Village, though. It's
Oh,
the
I'm sorry. Helps if I unmute myself. It makes it better.
yeah.
So I've got the Wirrikee flower within modern shapes with broken parts background. It's basically the flower in a trying to be a modernized look, I guess.
Yep. Well, it's stylistically stylizing the flower and using those kind of geometric shapes would suit the brief really, really well.
Yeah, the triangle one is the most it's got modern shapes that I could think of, but to get it right, it's going to take a lot of tinkering. Yeah, that's all I've got so far.
No, well, that's good. That's fine. That's what we're looking for.
It's good to hear. Oh, that's mine.
How about Lauren? You hold them up to your camera. Well, I might just have a. We won't all wait because everybody probably wants to get going. But I'm just going to pull up a graphic of a couple of different palettes. So I am naturally inclined to go to the left-hand side palette, Harmony. And then when we have a look at Discord, you can see all sorts of different sorts of things, like the pink and the purple, the red and the orange, the green and the yellow. So they're all sorts of different colors, and it gives you a bit of an idea of the palette they're looking for. It's when you change your natural color sort of, I don't know, to me, it's almost like it's an automatic thing. I pick colors. I don't really think about them. They just kind of, I see them and I go, that's working. That's what I want. Once upon a time, I used to really sit there with a color wheel and try really hard to follow the rules. And then when you're doing something that's outside your comfort zone, it's more difficult. So it's well worth having a look and seeing at examples of colors that other people are suggesting work well as a discordant palette. And you may say, well, I would never use colors like that. But hang on a minute, that actually looks quite good. I could see those two working in this case, and I can see that being a really bold statement. I'm sort of looking at that orange there where my cursor is and that green there. I think I like that green. It's sort of So a lot to think about. So you don't need to scan and email it to us today, Lauren, but if you would be ready with it on Monday, that'd be great. Has anybody got any questions they would like to ask before I release you and let you go off to design land?
No, I think I'm good. I'm excited. I have it all in my head now, and I'm excited to get it all down on paper and then digitize it. And I have a basis of how to create a branding document from just a few people I'm following on Instagram. And so I'm really excited to use their techniques in creating a branding document to apply it to this in my mood board. So yay. Okay.
Next week, I was going to actually give everyone an example branding document. But you want to, if you have something there's no right way to do it. So, feel free. I'm just going to suggest that there are certain headings, that's all.
but that's perfect. I look forward to it. I'll just, I mean, I won't do a fully fleshed out branding document, but I will, I'll just put it all together.
I'm actually trying to get my daughter to send me some things from the agency she works from at the moment. They've just revitalized their internal documents, and she goes, "Oh wow, these are really cool. They've really thought about everything." And I'm going, "Really? Send me one." She's going, "Oh, I don't know." I said, "Come on, I'm not a rival agency." So she's going to find out whether she can send it, and it would be interesting to look at the way they have described the branding guidelines for one of their clients. And
Well,
it'll be
company that I sent through, I think last class, the Pink Pony Creative. She's very open in the way that she does things because she wants to educate young designers, and she just has so many great things of how she lays out on Instagram, how she lays it out for the client. She's actually recording her Illustrator screen. I can resend you the information if you like. But yeah, her name, I think it's Kristen, and she just does such a great job. And like 10 years ago, it was just her and her computer, and now she has a fully decked out staff and everything in Auckland. So it's really cool. If she had a branch here in Melbourne, I'd be like, me please.
so where is she?
So she's in Auckland.
Okay.
I'll get the website up and I'll send it through.
That'd be great. I worked in Auckland for Dormerbeck Stewart Wern, which was a subsidiary of J. Walter Thompson. And then I went to work in their Wellington office. So I spent a year in New Zealand working on those sorts of things. Pink Pony Creative.
They do different designs for heaps of different companies. They have a very laid out way that they do things. Let's see if we can get there. This was a cool one. And so she lays it out in these tiles to give you an idea of how the brand feels with, stock images or images supplied by the company and the icons and different things.
I like
really
awesome. The icons and the drawings.
Yeah. So her style is very much like, this is a very good representation of her style and why people come to her. It's for this particular type of work. So yeah, like this pet one. So again, with and how like they got to the different images, the line art. As you can see why I'd be so drawn to this particular company, because this is very much my style of work.
What's that Mile one? I like the look of that.
Oh, surveying and engineering and planning.
Yeah. I'm doing something like that at the moment. That's what I was doing on the weekend.
Really cool. The image that they've used here, this triangle with the line through it, is actually the element for Earth. So it's cool that they're surveying and engineering and planning. It's because they're all building on Earth, which is really cool.
Do you like the collateral there? Just go back up to that middle drawing. It just shows you what you can do. It's a business card. It's an envelope and the letterhead, and how they are discordant, but they all fit together beautifully, don't they? And there's it's the base color, the base hue ties it all together and is represented in each of those documents, and that's a nice way to present it as well against a background like that. Just a little bit of shadow around it. Very nice.
So yeah, they're great. I look up to them a lot.
Oh, they're in Christchurch. No, I didn't work in Christchurch.
Where I got Auckland from then. I don't know.
Don't know. Christchurch is probably I don't think it's much bigger than Bendigo, except that because of where it is, it's got more of a capital city feel about it. So it's a bit like Launceston type thing, it's on the coast and big mountain range behind it. And there's no other comparable size cities or towns for the whole of the South Island, really. So it's kind of the capital of the South Island. Whereas Auckland is like Sydney, brash, big bridge, big tower. And the agency was in the main street. I think it's called Queen Street. And it was, I had a desk that I could look straight out into the street, and there was a bus stop out the front. And people would just be leaning against the window. They couldn't see me because it was one way type glass. It was tinted, and I'd just very distracted watching people, turn around and do their hair and makeup looking straight at me. it was pretty weird. Yeah. And then when I moved to their other office, it was in a 3-story brick building at the docks in Wellington. And we had one end of this building, I think it might have been a warehouse once upon a time, and the other half of the building was a brothel. And it, people would come wandering into our reception desk looking for a happy ending. It was a bit of a challenge for the front of house. So we always used to say to the clients that we offered a full service design, and if they were unhappy with us, they could pop next door and get a smile on their face. But anyway, that was a very strange place to work. So I think everyone's on a let's call the Zoom a quits, and we'll get stuck in. And I look forward to seeing where this one is going to go. And
Thanks,
I'll see you on Wednesday. Back to that other life, doing another job.
Whipstick.
Yep. So see you later, everyone.